time with today's theme of locally engaged and globally connected, I thought I'd tell you a bit about a project that we've got running here in Wellington called Kaibosh Food Rescue. We're a part of a network of food rescue organisations throughout New Zealand and around the world that are working towards a goal of reducing food waste and assisting people in the community who are having trouble with food security. I'm not sure if any of you have seen Tristan Stewart's great TED talk where he talks about the great food waste scandal, but they estimate that from farm to plate, around about 40% of food is wasted somewhere along the way. And that's at a time when there's issues of food insecurity and poverty are major all around the world. We can't solve the world's problems, but we're working pretty hard to make a difference here in Wellington. Just for myself, just out of interest, show of hands of anyone that's heard of Kaibosh and what we're doing. Cool, it's easier. Any Kaibosh volunteers here? No, right. I'll ask you again in 6 months and hopefully there'll be lots of hands up. So it's a very, very easy concept to understand, food rescue. Our vision is zero food poverty, zero food waste. I was talking to someone yesterday and they said it's a pretty difficult vision to talk about and espouse because essentially when you're hitting zero, it's pretty much an unobtainable place to reach. But I like to think it's aspirational rather than an end result. Our mission is to be the link between the food industry and charities that support people in need. So what we're doing is we are sourcing fit-for-purpose edible food that for whatever reason can't be sold and making sure that it's moved through to the people in our community who need it most, those people who are really struggling with issues of food insecurity or poverty. The logistical system, really, really basic. We've basically got food donors, Kaibosh in the middle, charities at the end, and we facilitate the movement of this surplus fit-for-purpose food from food donors through to charities and in turn their clients. We operate what we call a hub model. So we have a base down in Tennison Street, just around the corner from Moore Wilson's, where we work the Kaibosh operation from. I'll show you some photographs in a minute. There's different models of food rescue that are operated in other places around the world and around New Zealand, but we use this hub model here in Wellington. What Kaibosh does, it's really talking about being locally engaged. There's lots of different parts of the operation, from the food donors to the recipient charities, to people who fund the organisation, lots of different stakeholders who assist us in many different ways. But really, at the heart of the operation is a team of volunteers, and they're the people who do the day-to-day. There's always a problem with the slides, huh? They're the people who make the work happen on the ground. So the first part of the step are the food donors. We have a wide range of food donors, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, and they're the people who essentially provide us the food at no cost. Before Kaibosh was around, this food was being discarded into landfill. So the food donors see it in their interest to make sure that the food is, despite the fact that they can't sell it, going to those who need it the most. They'll have different reasons for giving us the food. For some it's a genuine altruistic desire to see those in the community who haven't got enough to be assisted. For others, they want to make sure that they're reducing their waste and therefore their costs. For others, there's social pressure that comes on them to ensure that they're not discarding food into skip bins. I think in this day and age, people think it's unacceptable that food's just needlessly discarded. So for all these different reasons, the food donors are happy to donate the food to us. The food is picked up by volunteers in the Kaibosh truck and it's returned to our base. We've got different roles for the volunteers. Some of them will go out in the truck, they'll be the food rescuers. Some of them will be the food sorters back at the base, and then some of them will be the distributors in the weekends down at the markets. You may have seen the Kaibosh truck and Kaibosh volunteers picking up the food at the end of the markets. There's lots of different roles for the volunteers. So the food's picked up, brought back in the Kaibosh truck to Kaibosh HQ, where each day there's a different group of volunteers will come in and they'll sort the food. So first thing they do is they sort the quality. We want to make sure that we're not giving food that people can't eat, passing that on to organisations, because essentially we're just giving them a problem. So we sort it for quality. Anything that's good enough, that's not good enough to eat, not fit for purpose, we discard. We take health and safety really, really seriously. were there any sort of food safety or food poisoning issues, come back to Kaibosh. We can pretty much look at the end of it for us. So we're very, very careful on health and safety. And there's certain foods that we just won't take. We don't deal with chicken, we don't deal with shellfish. Anything that's got any risk attached to it doesn't come back to Kaibosh. So the food comes in, the food sorters sort it. Every day they'll have a different roster according to the requirements of the different agencies. We're very careful to make sure that each agency gets the kinds of food, the types of food, and the volume of food that they need. They'll go through it, they'll sort it, allocate it into boxes, and then so you can see some pretty major volumes of food. We try to keep fruit and vegetables as high a proportion as we can. Essentially, that's the kind of food that the people who, the end recipients, would have probably had trouble attaining because of the cost of it or the availability. So we try and work to around about 60% of food that comes through Kaibosh is fruit and vegetables, and it's grain and soul food. Once that's packed, allocated to the charities, they will come through and pick it up from us and then take it back to their organisations. So the food comes from a real range of different places, from restaurants, cafes, factories, supermarkets. At the moment there's 27 different businesses which are donating food to Kaibosh. And in turn it goes to around about 32 different organisations. The organisations that we supply are organisations that deal with members of our community who are disadvantaged or marginalised. We specifically provide food to those organisations. We like to think that the work that we're doing is not just the provision of food, it's actually another tool in the toolkit of skills that these organisations are able to impart to people. So it's not just dealing with issues of hunger, of food insecurity, but it's also trying to give these people skills or empowerment so that they can move forward and get out of positions that have caused them the need to get food. So the organisations that take food from us, they range from some of the big social sector players in Wellington, the City Missions, the Salvation Army, DCM, right down to some of the smaller organisations, Aspire, Drop-in Centre for Mental Health Consumers, House of Grace, Home for Pregnant Teenagers. It's a real range of different organisations that are taking the food. In the past year, we've rescued and redistributed 120,703 kilos, which is the equivalent of about 345,000 meals. So we like to think we're making a fairly sizable impact on issues of food insecurity in Wellington now. As I said, there's 27 regular food donors and 32 supported charities across Wellington. At the moment, on a fortnightly roster, we've got 80 volunteers, and we're looking for more. So, as I say, those are all the different roles that they will work through in making this happen. So, while Kaibosh is a very simple concept, it's actually quite complicated, all the different parts of bringing it all together. But I think that we've, over the past 5 years, since we started in 2008, we've really been successful in garnering the support of Wellington, from the food industry, the community sector, and just from people, everyday people that are coming in and willing to give us a couple of hours time to make this all happen. So this is really my call to arms to you. If you're interested in coming and doing some volunteering at Kaibosh, all we ask is a couple of hours a fortnight. There's all these different roles. So jump on our website, www.kaibosh.org.nz, and find out how you can volunteer and what you can do. We've got a great bunch of people there. There's some great opportunities, and we really believe it's a way that people can roll their sleeves up, get involved with the community, and make a real tangible difference on the ground, and help us achieve our mission of zero food poverty, zero food waste. That's me.